Ooh, you may not like this conversation. Braids are actually really damaging for your hair, so you should probably stop getting them. Hey, Send Out here coming at you with another video. In this video, we are going to talk about braids and if whether or not they are damaging, or if whether or not they're damaging for your hair, and if whether or not you should stop using them, and if you shouldn't stop getting them, how often should you leave them in, if at all. Braids can sometimes cause breakage or balding if left in for too long, or if the hair is braided too tight. Number one, tension. This is where different scalp disorders like traction alopecia come from. Tight braids put a whole lot of strain on the hair follicle. This can lead to breakage. Over time, this can lead to balding around the edges and in other places around the body. And like I said, this could lead to traction alopecia, and traction alopecia comes from too much traction. Now you got alopecia. This also can trigger something called telogen effluvium. Telogen effluvium is what happens when your hair follicle gets stuck in the resting phase of the hair growth cycle, and stress is something that triggers that, right? At one time, only about 5 to 10% of the hair's follicles are supposed to be in the telogen phase, but when you stress out or when you induce stress through pain or anything like that, what ends up happening is the majority of your follicles go into telogen effluvium, and in that case you may experience excessive shedding, right? So by the time you get ready to take your braids out, it looks like your hair is coming out in clumps, and you want to blame the braiding hair and things of that nature, where in reality you had your braids too tight. You were constantly putting your hair in ponytails and things that caused a whole lot of tension, which triggered telogen effluvium, right? So that's one of the main causes. Number two is gonna be weight. A lot of y'all are not gonna like this, but even though it's super cute, those super duper long braids, especially, ooh, you're gonna get mad, especially if your hair about this long. If your hair about $150, you know what I'm saying? Like if your hair less than 2 inches long, I'm saying $150 because that's like 1.5 inches, right? If your hair about $150, and when you see these people, I know it's great that they can grip your hair. That's great. Oh my God, you're so talented, right? But still, you are causing massive telogen effluvium on your client's hair, especially if you take them from $150 to about $200, right? Or not even 200, like about $20. Like now it's about 20 inches. It was only $1. Your hair only $150, but now you got 20. Like, it seems great, but the weight that the follicle is holding onto is crazy. Because I need you to remember, if your hair, right, if your natural hair, if the extensions that you're putting in your hair are like quadruple the length and the weight of your real hair, it's gonna be more harm than good. It's not a protective style if your hair is $150 but you got 30 inches of braids in your hair. It's not, because you have $150 holding on to $30. That don't make sense. So that's something that I really need y'all to think about, because braiding from that aspect it does way more harm than good, especially if you going swimming and getting in the shower. You're adding additional weight to those braids, which in return is going to do the same thing that I told you in number one, which it causes telogen effluvium from that stress. The constant weight and pulling on the human hair shaft will eventually weaken it, as it's like trying to fight to hold on. It's gonna weaken it, which will eventually make it easy to break. And this is why a lot of my sisters cannot retain length. Everybody's hair grows, but we are under the misconceived notion that you have to do protective styles. And the reality of it is, the only time you need to be doing a protective style is if, let's say, you going out of town, or you gonna be swimming and all of this stuff, and you just know you're not gonna be able to be attentive to your hair and things of that nature, then okay. But just a protective style being your life's purpose, and then your protective style is you having hair that's $150 but you adding 30 inches, it's like, baby girl, Number 3, your hair can become really dry when you have it in braids for too long, because remember, most people that are getting their hair braided are going to braiders that pack the scalp full of oils and butters and edge controls. You do not have to use edge controls and butters and greases and all of that to do parting. Like, to me, that's what makes a great braider, her ability to do magnificent work without products. All she needs is a comb and a brush. Like, those are the braiders that I'm used to seeing. I don't know what's wrong with y'all edge control kung fu edge masters. Moisturize the hair properly. You have to ensure that you properly prep your braids before you get them put in. A lot of people are so scared of blow dryers that they just stretch their hair. They like air dry their hair or stretch it with those little stretch plates. Ugh. And then they braid their hair, and then once they take their braids out, they want to know why their hair is so broken and tangled and stuff. Well, it wasn't properly prepared. So you have to make sure that you're using the right products and the right tools and prepping the hair properly before it's braided up. This is another reason why braiders should have went to cosmetology school too. Number 4 is going to be prolonged wear. I'm sorry, most women think that the longer they sit in a chair or the more money they pay is connected to the amount of time that they should leave a style in their head, and that is not true. Even in cosmetology school, we learned that braids and certain styles shouldn't really be left in the hair any longer than 10 weeks. But of course, nobody wants to really hear that. But for that reason, because most women who get their hair braided leave the braids in for 3 to 6 months, then you really do experience a whole lot of breakage, a whole lot of dryness, because the hair is brittle. The hair isn't able to get the proper sebum flow that it really needs. But if the braids are left in for a short amount of time, like I said, if you're only getting the protective style because it's the summer and you're going out of town and you're going to be swimming and you don't want to worry about your hair, great choice, right? Great choice. But once you come back from vacation, you know, maybe a couple of weeks after you come back from vacation, take them braids out, girl. They not attached to your head. They not. Braids end up weakening the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft when they're left in too long. And if you want to know what the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft is, make sure you check the video layer below. But the epicuticle is the layer right on top of the hair's cuticle. When braids are too tight or left in for too long, it creates a massively unnatural form of tension, which ends up damaging or breaking down the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft. And when the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft is broken down, when the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft is broken down, it makes the hair's cuticle and cortex more susceptible to damage from external sources and you.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
This is why it's so important to take braids out and just wear your hair in between your protective styles, because you need to reinforce that epicuticle layer in between every protective style that you use. It is not enough to take braids out and put them back in, take them out and put them back in, because most people do that and then be like, oh, I'm gonna go get a flat iron, and then you get a flat iron, you get heat damage, and you want to blame the flat iron or the person who did your hair, when in reality you've been doing team natural practices, or you've been wearing protective styles and braids for months and months, or for the past however many years, and you have no epicuticle. And so then you go blow dry your hair, you get heat damage, and you want to blame me, not me, but you want to blame Shalissa and them. It wasn't Shalissa's fault, it was your fault, Shamegan. How can you make sure that when you do have braids, you make sure that your hair doesn't get dry, brittle, or broken? This is where mechanical damage happens, right? Having braids is one of the leading causes for mechanical damage. So the first thing you want to do is moisturize and prepare the hair properly by using a leave-in conditioner. Now, one thing that wets my whistles, okay, is when I see people online talk about, oh, apply leave-in conditioner every day. Do me a favor real quick, and let's have a common sense moment. The only time you would need to reapply a product is if once you apply it, it somehow is not there, right? The only time I reapply a leave-in conditioner to my hair is when I wash it, right? Because prior to me shampooing my hair, the leave-in conditioner that I sprayed in earlier that day is still on my head. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you are a person who sprays leave-in conditioner in your hair every day, even though you haven't washed it, you're just spraying leave-in conditioner, why are you doing that? Like, I'm being for serious. Where did when you just sprayed your hair with the leave-in conditioner, where did that go? Why are you spraying more? Because the last time you sprayed the product that you sprayed on last time is still there. It didn't go anywhere. Unless you washed it, it didn't go anywhere. So you're just adding product on top of product on top of product. That's not what you're supposed to do. Right before you get braids put in your hair, simply spray your hair down with a leave-in conditioner, or you can use a cream-based leave-in conditioner based on your porosity, right? Cream or liquid isn't based on porosity. Watch the link in the description box below where I talk about liquid versus cream leave-in conditioners, and you make your decision based on that, right? But you use your leave-in conditioner. Then if you want to add a small drop of oil, when I'm talking about drop, I mean a driggity drop, okay? So you use a drop of oil or whatever if you want to on your ends, not on your scalp. And when I say a drop, I mean a drop for your whole head, not a drop per braid. Oh my God. And then braid your hair up, and with that, your hair has everything it needs. I need you to also remember that your scalp produces sebum. You don't need to put anything additional on there. And there is never, with braids, there is never a time where you have easier sebum flow than when you have your hair in braids, unless you go to somebody who put edge control over your scalp and blocks the sebaceous gland. Then you don't have that. And I was about to go into a rant about the sebaceous gland, but later. Number 2 is going to be silk or satin hair wraps. It's kind of important for you to put a silk or satin wrap around the braids after they loosen up. I never recommend putting a scarf on your braids the day that you get them done, because that just adds to the tension and the pulling and the weight and things of that nature. So wait until it feels like you don't even notice that they in there, and then you can start tying your hair up at night. But prior to that, just get a silk or satin pillowcase, some silk or satin sheets. I'll leave some in the description box below. It's super simplistic, and once you find an easier surface to sleep on, the amount of friction that you'll have with the braids is going to be simple. It's going to be really like slim to none, right? Pay attention to the way that you sleep though, right? Keep it really, really simplistic. Most of the time, it's even a habit I have too as a black woman. We have the habit of whenever we have on a scarf, we want to tie it super tight. Don't do that. Like, just put it on. You don't have to tighten it. For what? You don't need to lay no edges. Tie it super tight. And I'm not gonna get on edges because y'all gonna do what y'all want to do, but the edge craze phase is leaving, and it's about to be over soon. So I'm not even gonna get into that, how braiders be parting off whole rolls just to do baby hairs, but we not. Again, number 3, avoid too much tension. If you are finding that if you are getting your hair braided, or if you're about to go get your hair braided and your braider tells you to pop a Tylenol first, you should probably find another braider. I'm just being honest. If I'm being honest, I'm just being honest, because you should not be in excruciating pain to get your hair done. You should not be in excruciating pain to get your hair done, because if you are in excruciating pain, that is your body giving you a sign and trying to tell you that it's something wrong. So if you keep it in there, whatever happens after that is on you. So don't blame the braiding hair. Don't blame nobody else but yourself. If it hurt and you sat there and you let it hurt and you ain't say nothing, then then oh well. And thing is, Don't say none of my comments either. This is coming from seeing the cosmetologist. It wets my whistle that women be on YouTube like talking crap, dropping names of stylists and everything, but then when they was there, they ain't say nothing. It's crazy. Anyway, I ain't gonna or keep the scalp clean. Oh, nothing makes my skin crawl more than when I see these videos of these women telling y'all on YouTube to squeeze all of this oil and grease in y'all hair. Like, everybody want to blame Mielle Organics, but in reality, Mielle Organics was just the chip off the block. It just pushed everything in overdrive because of the amount of essential oils that are in the product. But it's so many of y'all going bald the same way that y'all was going bald with Mielle Organics, just because y'all putting oils and greases and butters in y'all hair all the time. Braiders who are using edge control on the scalp are either women who don't have any formal education, have not been to school, who are just braiding hair, or women who ain't pay attention in cosmetology school, or women who been doing hair so long they've been like, fuck it, I'm gonna do what I want to do because this worked best for me. And keep your scalp clean. Once you braid your hair, you shouldn't be putting nothing on your scalp but shampoo, and that's just that on that. And if you feel like you need to cleanse your scalp, I always recommend to either use rose water or witch hazel on a cotton ball and use that on your scalp. Witch hazel, rose water, or rosemary water, right? I do not make rosemary. I do not recommend making the rosemary water, the witch hazel, or the rose water yourself, because you're gonna be growing bacteria and people don't follow directions, and I'm not gonna be held liable for you growing bacteria, right? But if you want to get your hands on any of the 3 waters that I just named, and make any of the 3 hydrosols that I just named, then make sure you shop Simple Apothecary so you can learn more. Avoid leaving your braids in for too long. A lot of people are not gonna want to hear this, but my recommendations for braiding is never anything over 10 weeks. Is anything between 6 to 8 weeks. After 6 to 8 weeks, you leaving them in is going to damage the epicuticle layer long term after you constantly leave braids in for long periods of time. So leaving braids in for 6 to 8 weeks at a time and then giving yourself like a month-long break and then doing them again, normally that prevents you from having like breakage and balding, and braiding your hair isn't damaging when it's done like that. Not surpassing those 6 to 8 weeks and giving yourself at least a month or at least 2 weeks that your hair can just breathe, and not in braids, not in plaits, not under a wig, like your actual hair. Make sure that you are really paying attention to your hair and letting your hair breathe. Wearing braids for the rest of your life is not okay. You weren't born with no braids in your head. Lastly, make sure you're careful removing your braids. So many times I see women wet their hair down. I do not know why y'all want to be damn mermaids so bad. I don't know, like, why y'all want to be in water so bad. We just had a couple of hurricanes. I do not understand why everybody acts like water is not the destroyer. Water is also a destroyer, and it will destroy your hair shaft if you're constantly wetting it before you do everything. So the last and worst thing you can ever do to the human hair shaft is to wet it to take braids out. Literally the worst thing you can ever do. So stop doing that. Make sure that before you take your braids out, your hair is 100% dry and you detangle with oil, not water. And if you want to say that it don't work, baby, you just don't know what you're doing, because the people who actually follow directions and do it properly find that detangling the hair with a small amount of oil in the way that I teach you how in the 7-day challenge or in the growth cycle blueprint, it blows everybody's mind. So make sure that you know exactly what you are doing before you just hop in and start touching your hair, or anybody else's for that matter. There are a couple of products that you can use before you get your hair braided to reinforce the hair shaft, making sure that your hair is strong enough to sustain braids. If you have very, very weak, high porosity hair, right, and you just have to get braids, I don't recommend it. I don't. I don't. So I don't know why I was about to lie to you, because I don't recommend it. Why would you get braids if you damage your hair? Or when I see people get a weave after they get a relaxer over their whole hair, why would you do that? Don't do that.
No, God, please, no, no, no.
But if you have damaged hair, or if you feel like you want to get braids so you can strengthen your hair, do some type of bond reconstructive treatment. Olaplex is my favorite. Some people like it's a 10 or it's a 12 or it's a 15 or whatever. I mean, no, K18 or K27 or K59 or K68, K69, whatever it is. Use that if you want to. I'm an Olaplex girl myself, but you can use some type of bond reconstructive treatment first, and then after you use this bond reconstructive treatment, then you can go in and get your braids. But give yourself a fortifying treatment before you put the braids in. And I also recommend doing a scalp and a hair shaft detox first, so that way your scalp and your hair shaft is free of debris, able to breathe. So the only thing that will be on your scalp is sebum. You want to make sure that you fortify the cuticle layer as much as you possibly can before you put in hair extensions. Number 2 is going to be deep conditioning mask. In this video here, I teach you the difference between regular conditioner and deep conditioners. So make sure you go watch that video where I break down exactly what deep conditioners are. But so go and watch that video. I break down what a deep conditioner is. But getting a deep conditioning treatment right before you put braids in is going to be pivotal for you, because again, it enforces and properly prepares the hair shaft to be in a protective style for 6 to 8 weeks. Number 3 is going to be leave-in conditioner. We just talked about leave-in conditioners. Leave-in conditioners are polymers. They create a artificial layer that aids the epicuticle layer in staying strong and enforced as your hair is in a protective style. Number 4 is going to be a heat protectant if blow drying. Remember that your leave-in conditioner is your heat protectant for your blow dryer. Don't believe me? Go on Kimbra's website and look at their leave-in conditioner. It has heat protection for up to 450 degrees. So your leave-in conditioner is your heat protection for your blow dryer. Make sure that you blow dry your hair with a leave-in conditioner / heat protectant before you put braids in, or most likely you're going to have braiding, matting, and tangling when you take them out. These are a couple of things that you can do to reinforce your hair before you get braids, and it also works right before you get hair extensions as well. All right, I really hope that this video makes sense. If you have any questions for me, make sure you leave them in the comments below. And yeah, braids is one of the main reasons why a lot of y'all have damaged hair. And why am I saying bye? A lot of people are not gonna like to hear this. One of the dermatologists that I work with, she we have a funny relationship, because I had to put my foot down with her because she kept sending me her little dusty unruly clients. And at first I would get mad at her and say something to her about it. She was like, Stan, I watched your YouTube and you are good at doing this. I do not have the patience. But I have so many clients that I get from dermatologists who are tired of them, and they already know. Y'all already know. Because their dermatologist told them, if you come back to your appointment, and this is after they've been their dermatologist for over a year, and they'll grow hair back and then it falls out, they'll grow it back and then it falls out, and they'll tell them, if you come back to an appointment with box braids, I'm no longer going to be able to take you on as a client. Because of all of the things that we talked about before, black women think that because braids are a cultural hairstyle that they're healthy for the hair, and that's not true. If you are braids are for people with healthy hair. Braids are not for people who have scalp issues. Braids are not for people who have scalp issues and people who have scalp problems. And I don't care what anybody has to say. You know why? Because if you are already dealing with with balding, you already have weak follicles. So the last thing you want to do is braid it, pull it, and put more tension on it, right? You want to leave your hair alone. That's why a lot of dermatologists will for sure recommend you to wear a wig long before they would ever recommend you to wear box braids or anything like that, because you need to reduce the amount of tension and weight that you're adding to the follicle. But if you're adding braids all the time, if you're wearing heavy tension forming braids all the time, girl,
Stop it. Get some help.
girl, understand it's not your head holding on to the weight of them braids, it's your hair's follicle. So if they already struggling to hold on for life, you just made them jump off the boat. So I really hope that makes sense. But braids and box braids and y'all different braided styles are not the things that you run to when your follicle is dying. That's gonna make the follicle die even faster. If the follicle's dying, you want to put it in a resting stage where it's not getting anything but nutrients and there's no weight or tension being added. I hope that makes sense. And if it don't, check out a look. It's in the book, Reading Rainbow.